a week ago. I did an interview with one of your primary opponents named Jacob, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
told me that he has dropped out of the race and will be
Oh,
endorsing you
yes, that
soon.
dude. Yeah, no, Jacob's actually joined our team, and we're really excited about that. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, absolutely. I wasn't sure. It's not exactly news for me, but I wasn't sure when Jacob was making his announcement. So, did he? When did he tell you that? I just
Yeah,
want
he
to.
told me, yeah, he told me during our interview.
Okay, fantastic.
And
Yeah.
which is why I told you during our interview that I had breaking news.
Ah,
So
okay.
I was unaware when he would have told you by now.
Right, right. He and I talked several days ago about where things were heading, and he told me he had some decisions to make, and I just told him that, you know, I understand that that's a real tough decision to make. I know how passionate he is about changing things for the people of the Fifth District and making life better, and whatever decision he makes, to know that he's always got a home with us, and so I'm very excited that he's joined our team moving forward. Absolutely. So,
Okay, so now we got that out of the way. How are you?
ah, hanging in there with this weather. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm doing
Staying
great.
warm?
Yeah, I just got back from a walk, which is why there was some confusion on my part about us starting on time. So thankfully we're here. Um, is this your first time running for office anywhere?
It is. It is. I've run you know, for positions with civic organizations that I belong to and held you know, various positions and officer positions in faculty senates and industry organizations. But this is my first time running for office in in a political sense. So yeah. But nothing here is really alien to me. I've done a lot of advocacy work for higher education as a professor and learning how to read policy, learning how to write policy, learning how to work with others in order to fine tune things and make the compromises that are necessary to pass a bill without compromising the values and the intent that you're looking for. And a lot of those skills transfer over really well to this sort of work that we're doing. But most importantly, I think it's about intent. It's
So I
about
think you
people.
just explained to me why you're running now. Um, and I'm thinking about how I want to ask you this question. But I'm just going to get straight to the point. Are you aware that the district is completely, well, I won't say all the way red, but mm, what, 66% on average red?
Yeah, I think it's right around 65% in the last election. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of reasons for that, and we can dig back into the move that the Democratic Party made in the 1990s, where it sort of abandoned rural America and working class, citizens with the NAFTA agreements, and we could look into sort of the cultural shifts that have happened over that time. Certainly, some people would look at the redistricting that had been done in the meantime, but I don't think that we should think about it as a 65% Republican district anymore. And I'll tell you why. I think that a lot of people stayed home in the last election. There were a lot of people who were disenfranchised
2024
by,
presidential.
yeah, in the presidential election, which was also the last congressional election when Libby Urban was running up against Tim Wahlberg. And a lot of folks stayed home. I mean, 90 million Americans stayed home during that election. And we saw the result. When you don't vote, you don't get the kind of representation that's looking after you. I noticed, as I've been meeting with constituents all over the district, that there's a lot of discontent and unhappiness with the way things have been going, with promises that have been made by the Republican, GOP Congress and by President Trump that have not only not materialized, but the opposite has occurred. And we're seeing the very people who trusted Tim Walberg, trusted Donald Trump and his administration to improve their lives in substantial ways, instead making their lives harder, making their lives worse, and in fact, attacking their communities and attacking the very Constitution of the United States. And what I'm seeing across the board is angry constituents, not just Democrats. People who had previously not bothered voting are fired up and mobilized to vote.
Which
And a
brings
lot,
me to my next question. Do you genuinely, without the respect, Christian, do you genuinely believe that you have what it takes to flip the district?
absolutely. You know, the the district and the folks in the district, they're not unknown to me. I worked my way through school. I was a bricklayer uh, while working through school. I come from a family that's got a strong, strong community orientation, who's done a lot, been involved in union organizing and union work. In fact, I organized a union when I was out in Oregon in less than a year for the faculty union at Oregon Institute of Technology while I was there. Um, I've got a lot of history. I grew up in Michigan here, and I know rural issues very well. I know the working class issues. I've got a family full of auto workers, and uh, and I understand what they're facing, what their concerns are, and how to communicate with those. And so I I truly believe that we're going to flip this district. I know that it's a challenge. And I know that the work we do here is going to help other candidates all the way up and down the ticket as we do this because people have had it. People are really worried. They're
Okay,
seeing.
tell me about yourself. You said that you were a bricklayer. Your family were, I don't know who in your family was, auto workers. Are those, I mean, am I correct?
I've got a lot of uncles and cousins who are working in the auto industry. My father was a chemist and metallurgist. He had worked for a mining industry in research and development. My mother was a nurse, and she was a negotiator for the nurses union when it came time for contract negotiations. And I grew up in a household that had a real strong community-based values as part of that. When I went to school, I had worked my way through school, and I worked obviously as an undergraduate doing odd jobs as bartender and waiter, but I also worked as a bricklayer doing masonry work for all the way through graduate school. My wife often laughed at it and told me it was my summer workout routine, but that was a tough workout, I'll tell you. It's a
A
tough
summer
job.
workout.
What's that?
Wait, did you just say a summer workout?
Yeah. So during the summer, I'd work as a bricklayer during the
Oh,
good weather, and then
okay,
during
yeah.
the yeah, and that'll get you in shape real quick.
Yep.
I'll, and then during the school year, when I had to take classes and teach classes, I would also substitute teach K through 12. So I've got a lot of experience doing that as well.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
what else would you like to know about me? I'm a union member. I was a union organizer. I organized a chapter of the AAUP, over in Oregon. When I was there, I was with the National Education Association's branch in Maine while I was over there, uh, doing doing um, doing work for advocacy, lobbying, and uh, and contract negotiation work for the main association of teachers, of professors that are there. So I did a lot of work in advocacy for education issues. I was part of the Association of Oregon
what did you
Faculty.
say?
Martel, did I answer your question?
You did. And I'll tell you this. I'm very glad that you're a lecturer. Yeah, that was very verbose. Um, I don't even know where to go to now. Let's talk about Tim Wahlberg.
Right.
Um, from my interview with Jacob, and I am going to assume that you agree with him, but he's told me, Jacob has, that Wahlberg has not done many town halls, except for that one town hall in which It was the reason that he decided to drop out.
Yeah,
Has
well, uh,
he done
Tim
any town
Wahlberg's
halls to
a
your
slippery
knowledge?
guy. He
I'm sorry.
recently had one in Frenchtown over in Monroe area, and it was a you know it was an area that traditionally would have been pretty receptive to him, and instead it was a lot of concerns, a lot of anger, a lot of people are upset, and it was the first town hall in a very long time. Uh, you know, we keep stopping by his offices. He's rarely there. Often when he does show up somewhere in the district, it's with, very short notice and very limited announcement on that. And so I understand what Jacob is alluding to. Tim Walberg's not very accessible to his constituents, and it gives the impression, and it might be the right impression, that he is not very, that he knows that they're not very happy with the bills that he's been passing and the positions that he's been taking. In fact, there's a lot
But the
of folks that have been,
constituents or Wahlberg?
the constituents are not happy with
Okay.
Wahlberg. Yes. Yeah. I mean, everybody I'm talking to, I haven't talked to a single person who says that Wahlberg's, positions are helping them. That this economy, this big, beautiful bill that he voted for is actually in their benefit. In fact, it's the opposite that I'm hearing. Across the board are people who are being hurt by it. I'm getting calls from people all over the country who had called in to the local Democratic offices to find out, who's running against Tim Walberg,
Really?
because his work on the Education and Workforce Development Committee, of the House, has had a direct and negative impact on their families and on their children who are going to school and going to university.
Hold on
All
for a
right.
second. People across the country are contacting Wahlberg's offices.
Not Wahlberg's
I,
offices, the county Democratic, offices, to
oh,
find out
okay.
who's running against him.
What county
That's
are you
how
in?
that's how I end up getting a lot of phone calls and emails from folks that have been connected to. I'm having people reach out to me on Facebook asking me about bills that had recently been passed into law that Wahlberg voted for that are upending their lives. And they're looking for, I'm doing his work through communications that to fix the problems that Wahlberg himself has created with his votes in
What county are
Congress.
you in?
I'm in Monroe County right now, but I'm getting folks, District
And
5,
people are
10
and people
counties.
are contacting you from all over the
I'm
country?
all over the people who are contacting me with their concerns on social media are largely in our district. I'm getting folks
Oh,
from
okay.
Lenawee County. I'm getting folks from Cass County who are calling me, folks from Berrien, folks from Monroe and
Oh, okay.
Jackson. But the
Yeah.
folks who are calling me from across the country are folks who are being impacted by his work with the Education and Workforce Development Committee and the bills that they've been passing. And I know he's touted this great bill that he managed to pass that gets milk back into school lunches. It's not exactly the kind of concerns that people have at the moment. In the meantime, he's done a lot to cut really important job training and college program uh, funding, and make it really much harder for people to get their educational degrees across the country. In fact, I had somebody call me the other day from Arizona, and
So let's say that you were a representative. How are you going to be more adaptable to constituent concerns?
well, I think it's really important to proactively engage your constituents, to set up town halls, to show up and find out what are the issues that are impacting them. I just don't
I
understand how anybody can can do legislative work without understanding the problems that are being faced by the people in their district, the people that they answer to. And that means showing up. That means showing up not just in the areas where you know you're going to get a good welcome. That means showing up across the board, asking, how is this working? This is what I'm doing to help you. Is it having that impact? What more can I be doing? What issues are happening in your lives that your congressional representative can help you with? Because I'll tell you what, when I was growing up, I was really lucky. I had a good congressional representative. I had John Dingell as my congressional representative. And when I got out of school,
I assume that you lived in the sixth district, or I
yeah,
think,
the districts have switched
yeah,
in a way,
basically in
but
the Ann Arbor area.
yeah, that was the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti area when I was
Okay.
there. And but John Dingell was also down in Monroe County and others before they switched things up. But I'll tell you what, John Dingell taught me what it is to look out for your constituents. What's the job of a congressman? My family needed a home. I was coming out of graduate school and I had a massive amount of student loan debts that were associated with that. And we needed a home. And there was a program that was perfect for us. It was the Rural Relocation Loan. It was from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and it was perfect because we were moving out to rural America. I was going to be teaching at a rural community, and uh, I was caught. My family was caught in a catch-22. The USDA needed I forget how many exact years. I think it was a 3-year look forward on how much you were going to have to pay in um, in monthly payments for your student loan repayments. And the repayment program I was on was recalculated year by year.
What are you planning on, like weekly town halls across the district, or
Well, I'm not sure exactly how often you can get throughout the district when you're also living in Washington and passing
yeah,
laws. There's a
pardon the
lot of community,
question.
but I do believe that they should be regular. They should be well advertised. They should be across the district so people don't have to move too far. It's not an inconvenience geographically for people to get to you, and you should be accessible. With offices local to there, with a staff that can serve constituents' needs, and you need to be accessible no matter where you are. When I'm in Michigan, I need to be accessible to them. And when I'm in Washington, I also need to be accessible to those folks and not dodging phone calls. I just saw a young man from Jackson. He was on Instagram today. He just put one video after another of him reaching out to Wahlberg's office, asking for his
And I asked
position.
Jacob this in our interview earlier, but are the town halls full of Republican voters? Because there's been some talk across the nation. Some Republicans have said, "Oh, they're stacked to the brim with Democrats." I don't know
The
where in the
town
world they would get that from, but
The town hall is publicly it's open to anybody in the district who's represented by them, Democrat, Republican. If I'm elected, I don't just represent Democrats. I represent Republicans. I want everybody's life to improve, right?
would you be willing to, and this would be a pretty interesting idea, would you be willing to having town halls with only just Republicans?
I think
Not
everybody
all of
should
them,
have a
but
voice at
sometimes
town halls.
just to
But
get their persp just to see how they think you're doing.
well, Martel, I'll tell you what. In many areas of our district, you yourself pointed out the 65% voted Republican in the last election. There are parts of our district
That's on
where,
average across the last two
right, and there are
elections.
certainly parts of our district where if I hold a town hall, just pragmatically speaking, everybody who shows up is likely to be a Republican. And I'm excited about that. I want to know that because there are lots of common issues that we can connect on that are really important. And I need to know the issues that are important to them. One of the things that I found is that the policy positions that I am promoting and that I get behind, they're very popular with voters across the political spectrum. Uh, obviously progressive Democratic voters like them, but I found that if they're presented in a nonpartisan way, Republican voters like these ideas too. They get behind them. That's what they need and it's what they want. As long as you get away from the jargon, as long as you get away from sort of the blue team versus red team pageantry, and you focus on the issues that make people's lives better, you know,
So I think you've kind of already alluded to this, but do you sense and I'm gonna go ahead and say it like this, Do you feel a political shift coming in November, akin to what the 2010 Tea Party would have been this year?
I think we're going to have a big shift politically. I think it's already underway. But I want to be clear. I also have very significant concerns about whether our elections are going to be at all normal in the way that we recognize them.
How so?
Well, there's been a lot of moves in order to try to redistrict in different ways to, sort of disenfranchise voters. There's been a lot of moves to try to disenfranchise voters with new ID laws. Um, and many of these laws are going to overwhelmingly impact women, married women who have changed their names, and they're going to have trouble with that in many cases, especially elderly folks who may not have a active valid passport and have trouble getting their old birth certificate uh, for issues. I think that there's a lot of moves that are being made in order to disenfranchise voters. And on top of that, we're seeing a lot of executive branch incursion into the voting process already. And Donald Trump has even said, alluded to the fact that he might, with the Insurrection Act, have to pause elections. I mean, I take that very seriously. Carolyn Levitt said don't take it seriously, but Carolyn Levitt says a lot of things. I take it seriously because Donald Trump says these things, and the next thing you know, they happen, and they're not good. And so I think it's important for us. I see a major seismic shift in America. I don't think that the hardcore MAGA right is going to abandon